Welcome to the Wise Stoic. If you're new here, you're in the right place to build wisdom, resilience, and inner peace. Let's start the video. The longer a man is single, the more he begins to see clearly, not because he has turned away from love, but because he has learned to walk without needing it. He watches the world differently now. Where once he saw relationships as goals, he now sees them as reflections, mirrors showing him what he values, what he tolerates, and what he refuses to entertain anymore. At first, there is loneliness. The silence is sharp. The evenings echo. The absence of affection feels like a wound. But in time, something deeper grows. Solitude becomes a teacher, and the man begins to realize he has been given space, not as punishment, but as preparation. The longer he is single, the more he learns to sit with himself and discover that he is not missing anything. He is simply remembering who he is without noise. He sees how much of his past was spent chasing validation, how often he confused attention for affection, how many times he shrank his standards to avoid the discomfort of solitude. But now, standing alone, he doesn't just endure the silence, he welcomes it. It is in that silence that he begins to rebuild himself, quietly, patiently, without witnesses or applause. He trains his mind, strengthens his body, sharpens his purpose. He reads, he reflects, he works. He crafts a life that is rich, not because it is filled with people, but because it is filled with meaning. He no longer needs someone beside him to justify his existence, and that shift is powerful. The longer he is single, the more he observes how people rush into each other to avoid themselves, how relationships become distractions, not growth. He notices the drama, the clinging, the false intimacy built on fear of being alone, and he steps back, not because he is jaded, but because he wants more. Because he knows now love is not escape, love is expansion. If it does not elevate both, it is not worth it. He becomes harder to impress, not because his standards are impossible, but because they are rooted in self-respect. He no longer entertains beauty without depth, charm without character, affection without consistency. He's not looking to be completed. He's looking to be mirrored. And only a woman who has done her own inner work will recognize what he now carries. He listens more and speaks less. He values honesty over attraction. He does not perform. He does not chase. He does not beg. He simply is. And if someone cannot meet him there, he does not try to pull them up. He lets them walk. That too is love, letting go of what is not ready for you. His circle gets smaller, his priorities clearer. He finds beauty in simple things: a quiet morning, a long walk, a focused task. He no longer seeks constant stimulation. He is no longer running from discomfort. He understands now that boredom is often just the mind detoxing from chaos. He lets it pass, and on the other side, clarity waits. The longer a man is single, the more he refines himself, not for others, not to attract, but to align with truth, with principle, with purpose. He is no longer interested in being desired by many. He wants to be understood by one, and he knows that will not happen if he keeps watering himself down to be chosen. So he stops explaining, stops proving, stops performing. He simply lives as he is and trusts that what is meant to see him will. He becomes immune to games, to mixed signals, to attention seeking behavior. He doesn't play along, he doesn't compete. He is not here to win someone's confusion. He is here to share a journey with someone whole, someone present, someone who can sit in silence with him and feel peace, not emptiness. This man, the one who has walked through solitude and come out stronger, is not easily shaken. He does not fold under pressure. He does not fear rejection, because he no longer sees rejection as a reflection of his worth, only a reflection of misalignment, and what is not aligned cannot be forced into harmony. He walks into rooms differently. He speaks with weight, not because he is trying to dominate, but because he knows the value of his words. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't overshare. He waits. He watches. He observes energy, not just words. And in that observation, he filters quickly. He does not waste time where truth is not welcome. He is not afraid of love, but he is no longer desperate for it. He knows that love, true love, is rare, and that most of what people call love is just attachment in disguise. He is not bitter. He is discerning. He knows that his solitude has given him something most never find, the ability to be whole, and only from wholeness can real union be built. He loves, when he does, with his whole being, without masks, without strategy, but only when it's safe, only when it's mutual, only when it's deep. And if it fades, he lets it go with gratitude. Not everything is meant to last, but everything can be a teacher. He has learned that too. He no longer explains why he's single. He no longer feels the need to justify his path. He knows that solitude is not a sign of lack, but of strength, that some journeys are meant to be walked alone until one is ready to walk beside another without losing oneself. That is maturity. That is sovereignty. The longer a man is single, the more he sees relationships as choices, not needs, as partnerships, not rescues, as spiritual alignments, not social achievements. He watches how others speak of love and sees the illusions, the projections, the unhealed wounds playing dress up as romance. He no longer plays that game. He doesn't fear commitment. He fears self-betrayal. He doesn't fear closeness. He fears losing his voice. He doesn't fear being known. He fears being misunderstood and staying for comfort. And so he waits, not out of fear, but out of devotion to truth. And when he meets a woman who carries the same clarity, who has walked her own solitude, who does not seek to be saved but to be seen, he recognizes her, not by how loud she is, but by how still he becomes in her presence, because power recognizes power. Stillness welcomes stillness, and love, real love, does not rush. It rises. This is what the world often misses, that the man who stands alone is not broken. He is building. He is healing. He is growing. He is preparing not just for a relationship, but for the kind of union that doesn't just excite, but transforms, that doesn't just spark, but sustains, that doesn't just touch, but uplifts. He is not waiting. He is living. And in that life, he becomes a beacon for depth, for honesty, for strength, for real love. The longer he is single, the more he becomes the man he was meant to be, not someone half-formed, desperate for connection, but someone whole, ready to offer connection from a place of truth. So when people ask why he's still single, he smiles, not out of pride, but peace, because he knows the value of what he's building, and he refuses to offer it to someone who cannot match the depth he's fought to find. That is the Stoic path, not of isolation, but of preparation, not of bitterness, but of refinement, not of fear, but of faith, that what is truly aligned will meet you, not when you chase it, but when you've become the kind of person who no longer needs to. And that is why the longer a man is single, the more powerful he becomes, not because he is alone, but because he is no longer afraid to be. He learns that peace is not the absence of people, but the presence of alignment. The more he sits with himself, the more he begins to enjoy his own company. He wakes up without anxiety. He moves through the day without the need to check in, to explain, to overcompensate. He lives simply but fully. Every moment becomes a practice, a discipline, a meditation. He begins to understand that attention is cheap, but presence is rare. Anyone can flirt, anyone can pretend, but true connection requires depth, and depth requires someone who has traveled inward through their own shadows and returned with self-awareness, not projection. This is why he waits, not passively, but actively, building, sharpening, becoming. He becomes aware of how often people fear solitude because they don't know what to do with themselves. They fill their lives with noise, movement, attachment, anything to avoid the stillness. But he has made peace with the quiet. He knows it is not punishment, it is purification. The longer he is single, the more grounded he becomes. His emotions are no longer his masters. He feels, but he is not consumed. He responds, but he is not reactive. He notices the subtle ways the world pressures men to settle. You're getting older. Find someone before it's too late. You'll regret being alone. But he has seen the cost of rushing. He's seen men trapped in lives that don't reflect who they are, simply because they feared loneliness more than misalignment, and he refuses to be one of them. He would rather walk alone in truth than be embraced in a lie. He no longer fears being misunderstood. He no longer chases being liked. Approval is not the currency he deals in anymore. Integrity is. He would rather be respected by a few than liked by many. He carries himself with quiet certainty, not because he has all the answers, but because he is no longer afraid of the questions. The longer he is single, the more beauty he finds in solitude, not as a statement against love, but as a statement of love for self, for principle, for the life he is creating. He knows that anything added to that life must elevate it, not complicate it. He doesn't seek a partner to escape himself, but to walk beside someone who is also whole. That is the rarest kind of love, where neither needs the other, but both choose freely, fully, without fear. He begins to recognize the difference between attraction and resonance. Many can attract, few can resonate. Attraction fades, resonance deepens, and so he listens differently now, not to charm, but to silence, not to words, but to energy, not to promises, but to patterns. He no longer falls for potential, he honors patterns, because potential may never become reality, but patterns tell the truth. He does not expect perfection, but he expects truth. He expects effort. He expects presence because he brings those things. He knows that love is not about completing each other, but supporting each other's growth. He is not here to fix anyone. He is not here to be fixed. He is here to grow alongside someone who is also growing, and that kind of connection cannot be rushed. So he builds, he creates, he invests in himself, not as a placeholder, but as a priority. He becomes a man who brings peace, not chaos, depth, not drama, consistency, not confusion. And for that, he requires alignment. He would rather wait 10 years for that than settle tomorrow for less. He is no longer impressed by the superficial. He is drawn to depth, to self-awareness, to kindness rooted in strength. He knows now that beauty fades, charm wears off, but presence, true, grounded presence, never lies. And he has learned to trust his peace. If someone disturbs it, no matter how beautiful, he lets them go. He's seen how rare it is for two people to meet from wholeness. Most connect through wounds, through fears, through projections. But the longer he is single, the more he becomes immune to that kind of connection. He sees through it, and he doesn't judge it, but he doesn't entertain it either. His time is sacred now, his energy guarded, not out of fear, but out of reverence for what he's built. He becomes more attractive, not because he tries to be, but because he stops trying. There is something magnetic about a man who is at peace with himself, who is not chasing, who is not desperate, who is not performing, just existing, fully, unapologetically, calmly. That is the kind of energy that draws in the right ones and filters out the rest. And when the right woman appears, not a perfect woman, but a present one, he recognizes her not by fantasy, but by how reality feels around her. There is no chaos, no anxiety, no games, just clarity, just calm, just truth. And he meets her with the same energy, not out of strategy, but because it's who he has become. He doesn't fear losing her. He doesn't try to control her. He lets her be free because he is free. And in that freedom, the bond strengthens, not through possession, but through presence. That is the power of a man who has walked the path alone. He is no longer half a person looking for completion. He is a full soul offering companionship. And if she walks away, he lets her, not bitterly, not angrily, but with gratitude, because he knows what is meant for him cannot be forced, and what is not meant for him cannot be held. His heart is open, but his hands do not grasp. That is strength. That is stoicism. He doesn't need love. He chooses it. He doesn't depend on it. He honors it. And he no longer sacrifices himself to keep it. He has learned real love does not demand that. It only asks that both people remain true to themselves while being true to each other. So he continues walking, not aimlessly but purposefully, not hurriedly but steadily, and in every step he becomes more of who he was meant to be, a man untethered from approval, a man unshaken by rejection, a man unwavering in his values. That is power. That is peace. That is the reward of solitude done well. He knows that the world may not always understand his path, that others may mistake his silence for arrogance, his standards for coldness. But he is not here to be understood by everyone. He is here to live in alignment with himself, and that, to him, is worth more than any fleeting approval. The longer he is single, the more he sees that love is not rare, clarity is.
that most people are not looking for a partner, but for an escape. That real connection is not found. It is created slowly, intentionally, between two people who are willing to do the work. And he is willing. He just refuses to do it alone. So he waits, not for someone to save him, but for someone to stand beside him as he is, where he is, without masks, without games, without need. Just two souls walking home to each other, not because they're lost, but because they've both found themselves first. This is what the longer path of solitude teaches a man, not how to be alone, but how to be whole. And from that wholeness, love becomes something entirely different. Not a search, but a sharing. Not a rescue, but a recognition. Not a test, but a truth. And that is why the longer a man is single, the more dangerous he becomes. Not to others, but to every illusion he once believed about love, about self-worth, and about what it means to truly be a man.
Thank you for watching. If you found wisdom in this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others on the Stoic path. Stay healthy, stay happy, stay connected.